today we're going to look at another simple thing. The simple thing, I've seen it in some people who have touched me, and one of the people who I saw it in was a man named Khalid from Palestine. I'm sure you saw the video of the grandfather who lost his granddaughter Reem, and he was kissing her, and he had this very beautiful humanity to him that touched so many different people all over the world. And in one of the videos, Khalid, everything is, everybody's crying, everybody's hurt. There's not enough aid in the hospitals. People are in pain. There's no painkillers. They're lying, and he's just going around the hospital beds, consoling people. I'm here for you. Inshallah, you'll be fine. And as he's doing this, as he's doing this, he is doing a good deed. He's doing a good deed. The Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he said that inna al-abda la yatakallamu bi kalimatin min ridwanillahi ta'ala la yulqi laha balan yarfa'uhu Allahu biha darajat. A slave of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, happy slaves, inshallah, we're all happy slaves. The slave of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he might say something and he doesn't think it's important. La yulqi laha balan. But because of that thing that he said, because of that thing that she said, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala raises the slave in whole degrees. A small thing that we can say can go a really, really long way. And so this is our next practice. Our next practice that we want to, a habit that we want to develop, a change that we want to bring about, is the change of saying a kind word. Al-kalima at-tayyiba. The Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam, he said, Al-kalimatu at-tayyibatu sadaqah. He said that a kind word is charity. Very profound hadith. A kind word is charity. What do you think about when you think about giving charity? You think about somebody who's in need, somebody who's poor, somebody who doesn't have enough money, somebody who doesn't have clothes. And so you give them money so they can buy something. You're kind to them, you give them charity, you're helping them out, you're filling a need. When you give financial help to somebody, you are filling a need. Al-kalimatu tayyibatu sadaqah. A kind word is charity. What that means is that people, they need your financial support, but they also need to hear things from you. People need your appreciation. People need your gratitude. People need your consolation. Just as that man, Khalid, in Palestine, when he was going around, just people lying in pain, hugging them, saying nice things to them. That thing that he said to those people at that point in time was a need. It's a need that human beings have. Human beings need each other. Your children need you. Your parents need you. Your spouse needs you. Your friends need you. Your colleagues at work, they need you. We can't live alone. One of the worst kinds of punishments is solitary confinement. People go crazy. We need each other. What do we need each other for? We need each other to say kind things to each other. So how is a kind word charity? How is al-kalimatu tayyiba sadaqa? Listen to this from the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he had a young man, young companion. His name is Anas, who was the servant of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, quote unquote servant, because he was a boy. He wasn't even a teenager when he first started doing this, and so he would forget. He would go and get distracted. He would play a game, and it was the Prophet was doing him a favor. It wasn't the other way around. So, but because of this, he kept the Prophet's company for 10 years, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And he said famously that the Prophet never said about to him about something that he did, but he shouldn't have done that thing. He never said, "Why did you do that?" And he never said to him about something that he didn't do, which he should have done. Why didn't you do that? And and so this affected him. That means the Prophet spoke kindly to him. But there's one thing that really I remember so frequently, because I find it really touching. I find it really inspiring when I think about this. The Anas, who's a young boy, he has a brother, and his brother had a pet bird, and the bird died, and his brother was sad. And so he probably told the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam is the messenger of God. He's the head of state. He's the husband. He has not just one wife. He has many families, and he teaches people. He's a teacher. He's busy. But what did he do? He went and he visited the brother of Sayyiduna Anas. And he visited him to console him because his bird had died. What's this? This is a kind word. This is al-kalimatu tayyibatu sadaqah. Because the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he understood that children, they are needy. Children have a need. The need for children is for them to be accepted by their parents, by their elders, to be praised, to be told that they're okay, to be told that I'm proud of you, to be told that they're doing well, to know that they'll always have a home to come back to no matter what they do, to know all of these things. They have this need. They have this need. So the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he recognized this. And so he went to this child who's the brother of Sayyidina Anas, and he visited him to console him because his bird had died. And he said something very beautiful. It's a long explanation. I won't get into it. But in some riwayat, in some narrations of the hadith, it mentions that his brother came and hugged him and started crying and telling the Prophet how he was feeling, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And the Prophet wasn't just doing it for the brother of Sayyidina Anas. He was also doing it for Sayyidina Anas. Imagine how Anas felt. Imagine how he felt. The Prophet is coming, he's so concerned about him that he's coming to visit his brother. This is kindness. This is saying a kind word. And this is an example of how saying a kind word can raise you in degrees. And it's just a small thing that you say. And we don't say enough of it. We don't say enough kind words. We don't say enough kind words. I think back at myself. I remember I began studying. I began learning Islamic sciences. I had a teacher. He's very good in his Arabic language. I learned balagha from him, and I asked him a question, and I was stumbling. My words were coming out all wrong, and I was really ashamed, and I was apologizing, and I was trying to ask a question about the balagha of a verse or something like that. And he said something, and I never forgot it. He said something. He said to me, he said, "Laka qalbun lisanuhu baligh." He said, "You have a heart whose tongue is eloquent," meaning that even if you can't speak properly and you're making all of these grammatical mistakes and doing all of these things, he complimented me. And that compliment, I never forgot it. I remember the words to this day. Like, I don't know, it's over a decade and a half maybe. And I never forgot it. And it was encouraging. And I went and I studied, and it affected me. I needed it. So he saw that I needed it at that time. So what happened? So unfortunately, we sometimes, so it may not apply to you, right? But here's a scene that I frequently see. I frequently see a scene of religious people, religious parents, frequently, and or just religious people in general, and they're very critical of everybody else. So they're critical of people who aren't as outwardly religious as them, and everybody feels it, and their children feel it, and everybody around them feels it, and this has a very damaging effect on people. It's not good for their religiousness. And if you compare that to how the Prophet was, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and how like my own teacher, like what that kind word that he said to me, this small thing that you say, what it does is it makes people run. It makes people run, and they love you, and because they love you and you're a religious person, they will want to be religious. They will want to be. So somebody asked me yesterday, what can we do to help our children and in this month? And so here's something you can do. I'll have more things along this lines as well, but this is not just for children. It's for everybody. If you have, it's for your children, it's for your spouse, it's for your parents, it's for your friends, it's actually for your enemies too. And I'll explain how. So here's how it is for your enemies. Where does enmity often come from? It comes from, maybe you've been critical of somebody was looking for something, you didn't give them what they were looking for. They feel envious that you have something that they don't. They dislike you. They say bad things to you. They do all of these other things to you. And so this is your enemy, right? And our immediate impulse with somebody who's like this to us is to speak bad, boundaries, lay boundaries and lay distance and cut people off. And, this is not Islamic. The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam was not like this. Okay, so the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam had no boundaries. you know, Absolutely no boundaries. And people, the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, people would come and they would take advantage of him. They would ask him for all kinds of, his companions would get upset. He got married, he invited somebody, they refused to leave. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala had to reveal verses to tell them to leave, and not burden the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. But the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam wasn't like that. He was all of this is all it's un-Islamic, these ideas that are coming into our minds that people are teaching us. So if somebody, what's the Islamic way? The Islamic way is idfa billati hiya ahsanu sayyi'ah. It is in the Quran, when somebody harms you, you repel it with something that is good, with something that is better. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He tells us, فَإِذَا الَّذِي بَيْنَكَ وَبَيْنَهُ عَدَاوَةٌ كَأَنَّهُ وَلِيٌّ حَمِيمٌ. And you'll find that the person between whom you and him there's enmity, suddenly you'll find him to be a close friend. So when this is how the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam changed the world. This is how he changed the world. And so what we're going to learn today to do, it's really powerful. It's very small, but it's really powerful because it changes the way that you are inside. It changes the way that you look at other people. It changes the way that you interact with other people. And so what we're going to do now, here's an action plan. You have a three-point action plan.